All right. Um, I just want to say some thank yous before I get going as well. So Alex deserves thanks. Um, uh, I have been involved with the Toronto tech community for some time because there wasn't one when I got started. I like to tell the story of going to my first meetup, and there were like 6 of us there. Okay, and there was no sense of community. And the last time I came to TechTO, there were 600 people. Which is incredible. And here we are. This is the third FintechTO, an offshoot of Tech Toronto that Alex and Jason started up. And I don't know, we've got 250 people here. So this is so a big thank you. It actually takes these kinds of things to build an ecosystem. And speaking of which, I was in the bathroom because I'm Canadian, the restroom, whatever, the toilet, whatever. 10 minutes ago, and I had somebody turn to me who I'd just seen for the first time in a couple of years, and he's like, "Do you think Toronto can compete? Like, are we gonna actually be innovative and like finance these companies?" And unequivocally, I say yes. I say yes because of the work that folks like Alex does, because of entrepreneurs like Alyssa, whose footsteps I am sort of following in as well in a roundabout kind of way. But I'll talk about that in a second. And also because we're starting to connect with even the large corporations like RBC and stuff now. So thank you, RBC, for having us. It takes this stuff to make a community happen. So tune into my time, the clock says. What am I going to talk about? So Mike, founder and CEO of FreshBooks. What is FreshBooks? Ridiculously easy to use invoicing and accounting software in the cloud. You can use it on your mobile phone, whatever. We help people. I think we've helped people collect over $100 billion since we started. We started it. I founded it one day when I accidentally saved over an invoice. I was using Word and Excel to bill my clients. This is in 2003. I had a small design agency and ended up building this product, hunkering down in my parents' basement for 3.5 years. Like Alyssa, who's 7.5 years into not taking on capital and about $10 million. We went 10 years. We got to a pretty good run rate as well. And in 2014, brought on $30 million of capital and have been continuing to grow and scale the business, which has been a ton of fun. But not a bad way to get into things. So we took that check in 2014, and what we'd done at that time was kind of remarkable. Toronto-based company, we created kind of a category. We were sort of pioneering. We were doing accounting software on the cloud before really anybody got any traction. We ended up in 2014. We were the market leader for self-employed professionals and their teams, and we sort of created a segment that wasn't being served at all. And by all accounts, I guess if my slides are here, I bet if I click over, we'll see some. By all accounts, very successful, right? Top of the game. And just put the dollars in the bank. We're going to continue to scale, and I wasn't. Funny thing with this is a kind of story of a company and a founder, I guess. Back in my mind, I was like, are we really set up for the next 10 years, right? We built this platform, and since we started the company, all the technology had changed, right? Like frameworks, Ruby on Rails and stuff like that did not exist when we started out, and all the other, whether it's pick your, technology, like we were building our own frameworks. It was kind of that early. And competitors had risen up since we started. Our customers, loved us. We got super high NPS scores. But I sort of started to say, hey, the consumer expectations have just changed so much in the last decade. Now you can take your phone out and push a button, and a cab's going to show up. Like or a meal, or what? Like it's a very different world than say the 2013 from a technology standpoint on a bunch of different vectors. So, sitting there, and by all accounts, very successful scenario. But I want to share with you the story of, how it didn't really feel that way for me. Or it did, I guess. But in the back of my mind, I knew that, maybe there were some clouds on the horizon. And so I started to think about, hey, are we set up to win in 5 or 10 years? Okay, so I want to tell you a bit of the story around what happened next. So I I guess this is a story of kind of innovation where you have had some success, but you got to get to the next level. Okay, that was kind of the situation. So we just raised this capital, we got the market leading product, we're growing really well. You should just keep doing what you're doing, right? But I actually was a little, decided to not go that way. What we actually decided instead was that we needed to re-platform the company, like the whole product, go build a whole new thing. And for a variety of reasons, that is a stupid move. So the golden rule of being a software company is pretty much you don't do a whole hog rewrite, right? Replatforming it all is a challenge, but you definitely don't do a rewrite. But our problem was that we built this application organically. We started out with a lot of what I call founder code. Like, it was developed not by professional software engineers, but by people who are getting stuff done quickly and pleasing customers with it. But we were kind of breaking the rules of like proper hygiene software development. And what that meant was our front-end technology, the things a customer would interact with, was sort of intermingled with our back-end technology, which is like what talks to databases and stuff. And the consequence of all of that is it makes it very hard to change your user experience and your designs. And in a world where consumer expectations had changed a bunch, yeah, you can iterate, back-end technology and a variety of other things to get to a better place incrementally, but I don't believe you can iterate your way to greatness in design. And so rather than trying to sort of work with the existing thing and get it into a shape that we could work with, we actually decided, again, to completely rebuild, which is kind of a crazy thing to do. And there's a bunch of good reasons why it's a bad idea. And I want to share some of those with you. So, reasons why you don't want to replatform include competition may catch up while you're doing it. Okay. I promise you it's going to take you longer than you think. What else? Here's one that I really like. You could go through all the trouble and you don't necessarily end up with a better product at the end, right? Like, how many times have you gone and used the second generation of a product and it's worse than the first one? I could go on. There's a whole bunch of reasons why this is a bad idea, but basically from a strategic and competitive standpoint, you may never recover, right? But I was thinking to myself, hey, I'm not trying to win next year. I want to win in 5 years. So we got to do this now because I don't think we can do that otherwise. And so we did it. And I think I want to call out two other things that are maybe less obvious that are relevant in a decision like this. And they kind of impact teams. And so this is about like, hey, what are all these talks about? Want to pass on a kernel that's maybe useful to others. Funny thing about working on a product that's used by millions of people, right? It helps them collect billions of dollars. Trust really matters. And you run the risk when you're building a new product of undermining that trust by building either crappy things or doing something that breaks something important or whatever. So that's one problem. On the other side of the house, that's like a customer-facing problem. On the other side of the problem, inside the building with your engineering team or whatever it is, you have a different problem, which is they know the trust matters, and it becomes really hard to take big risks. Okay? Very hard to take big risks. In fact, so hard that you probably won't take the risks you need to take. And so the challenge was, how do we re-platform, not lose out competitively, but get the team to a place where they could take some of these really big risks? And what we elected to do was, I said re-platform. And we thought about ways to do this. So then it's like, okay, you're going to re-platform. How are you going to do this? And classically, it's like you build a thing over here for like 4 years as you thought it would take you 1, and then you bring it over and it's too late and nobody cares. And we knew that wouldn't be good. So what we elected to do was we thought about like, hey, do we launch it in a market that we're not active in, like Germany or something like this? A bunch of good reasons. If you're testing a market in Germany, one of the reasons you want to go there is because the character strings are like the longest in all the text. And so we wanted to build. No, but seriously, no, that's like from a software perspective, right? Better to start and get your user interface straight in that country if you want to be international, right? So it's like, hey, let's do that. And by the way, we're not super busy there today, though we do have paying customers. So anyways, challenge is our product is somewhat local in what people need, accounting and finance. And so what we decided instead to do, after a long walk in the woods, kind of an idea emerged, and that was this, is what if, we had the back-end technology, what if we created a new company that had a new name? We incorporated it completely distinct from our existing company, so no like liability risk, like it's its own company. New name, new URL, and put the new product there. And then have it actually compete with our existing product, right? Because you could actually know, like, is the new platform better or not? You would have data. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. That's how we sort of took on this like decade. Like any platform's can last you about 10 years in technology, right? And then you're kind of screwed. So this is a problem other people are going to have. They hopefully just don't have the technical debt that we did. Anyhow, so I could probably work on my dramatic pauses, but that's what we did. And we launched it. We competed with ourselves. And then I guess the question is, was it worth it? And so the short answer is yes. What we've gotten at the other side is a couple things. One, we were featured in Forbes. How about that? That was pretty cool. So this is like 3,000 word article in Forbes, the actual like dead tree version, which is a cool outcome from the story. It was kind of telling the first decade of the company's history. But I think the story and the way we approached it was sort of so remarkable that they had a big debate about do you want to, like, it's all, you're Canadian, we can't write about you. But they decided to put it in, so that was good. So I probably should have made this the last thing. But what do we get as a company? Because ink is only one thing that matters. The better business performance, we got a better product, and way more faster development cycles. But I would say the actual biggest win about something like this is I usually describe it like a lobotomy, but we could do it as a heart transplant. The whole company had to go through, like we started it with a mindset in engineering and stuff like that, the technology is overwhelming, we can't do things. And then we got through this thing and we reached like peak performance as an organization, going through this change, because people start to see, hey, we're doing this like impossible thing, we're achieving it. And that for me as a leader was a remarkable thing to see. And it just kind of completely shifted my whole perspective on like what is the potential of people when you have a whole organization like performing at a very high level. It was a really exciting thing to be a part of. Now we're gearing up for the next stuff. So yeah, some of you may have heard that story. For those of you who did, I'm sorry, but it's relatively new for us. And we think we've encountered a series of problems over the years at FreshBooks. One of them was we started out with a terrible company name and we ended up murdering our brand in an 8-episode serial murder mystery where our customers got to like guess the endings and stuff like that. A whole bunch of reasons why that's actually a good communication strategy, but it's not intuitive. So building your own competitor is another sort of novel way to solve a hard business problem. And I think for those of you out there who are struggling, maybe building your company and trying to find a way through something that seems insurmountable, I guess I just encourage you to believe that there is a way you can do this. It may not be obvious, it may not be logical, but there is a path. All right, that's what I got. Questions?
I'll take the first question.
Oh, okay, Alex, thanks.
So do you have a framework at the beginning to say how long I'm going to compete and what's success and how did you know, did you have any framework when you started, basically say we'll give it 2 years, 1 year?
2 years, 1 year. Yeah, so it was more like that. Like it's a project to begin with. You actually need to change the measures you use at different phases. So the first thing was, have you got a prototype we might even consider doing something with, right? And like designs in pixels, like don't even build something. Is there a future worth running towards? And then it became, okay, you have something, how long is it going to take? And I said no to like the first 4 answers. 2.5 years. No way we're doing it, right? Because that'll take 7. If you believe it's 2.5, it'll take 7, no. And so we got it down to a place where the team basically had 4 months to get something to market. And that was after doing a bunch of prototyping and what have you, but that was the first milestone. And really interestingly, our CTO funded it. He was like, okay, we're a VC. You have 4 months and this much funding. If you get to the milestone before this date, we will fund the next leg of your project. And so the team really became their company and their product, which is like the super powerful thing, right? And it just started gathering steam inside the building. Yeah. Yes.
For the new company, did you choose a new team or you carved out from the existing team? Because the existing team has its own challenges of mindset and knowing everything about it.
Yeah, interesting about knowing everything about it. So, so the short answer is we put our best people on it. Right? A small selection of them working in like a very small group at the beginning, and then over time kind of adding people. But that notion that you're getting at is often why these things fail. I found it really interesting for myself as a leader. Like I wasn't doing that every day on this. It was kind of like, no, Mike, you can't talk to us. We'll talk to you in 2-week intervals. And then I was like a milestone that I had to cross, or a gate or whatever. But what was very interesting and what I found my role to be, because I wasn't involved in it, I was like the unlearning machine, right? It's like I would basically be like, oh, you're stuck in thinking about things as if it was FreshBooks, right? I became you can't think, I had to, so do you think that if someone was starting new, they'd think about it like this kind of person, right? And just, they'd be like, yeah, of course they would. They'd come back the next day like, no, we can't do it that way. So is very hard. It's very hard to unlearn all those things, and I credit the team with actually being able to do that, because that is actually where things break down a lot. Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, where are we here?
Just right here.
There we are.
Yes, I just had a quick question in regards to the one downside that you see to the whole iterative, Eric, or his lean startup model is that a lot of people tend to be iterative or backward looking, but you balance forward looking and backward looking. You were thinking 5 years downward, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you balance that? I mean, I feel like a lot of the tech companies, et cetera, by being very close to your customer, all about iterations, but there's also a place for thinking about strategy in the future. Right?
Yeah, so if I internalize the backwards looking, is that like you're building people what they ask for? Right? Like you're building a faster horse. Hey, we talked to people, this is what they want. And it's like, oh, great, you built is it faster? Yeah, faster horse, right? Sorry. Not everyone knows that analogy. It's like, Henry Ford was like, if I asked the people what they wanted, they'd want a faster horse. Instead, I've built them an automobile. And so if you talk with customers, they'll give you, you'll build for them what they ask for. And so we had a lot of experience in the domain. And, again, this is an interesting question because you get into these roles, right? And I can just talk about this as a founding CEO for a second. Like I was very involved with like the minutia of product up until this effort. And this was the break point. We had, strong new leadership in place. We had good people working on the problems, and they kind of took it away and would visit me periodically, and that was good. But I had a role to play in all that, which is I set like kind of the vision, like the guiding principles, like the North Stars that we were going to assess everything they brought back from. And that would be my job, is to say, okay, hey, we all know what these were. They were set in advance, and we worked together to do that. And then, we went towards those. So we had a vision. It wasn't just talking to customers, but the efficacy of the implementation towards that goal was validated by speaking with people, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
When you appointed a new team to work on the new project, how was the relationship between that team and then the old team who was still trying to work with the old project and maybe innovate that a little bit?
Yeah, was everybody jealous because this little group of people got to be sequestered off in a place and play with the new toys? That's how I hear that question. Is that effectively correct? Yeah, I think, I feel like there's a lot of meaning in our work at FreshBooks. We're very close to the customers. We're solving problems for folks daily. So being able to carve off a team, and I think people recognize like, hey, these are good people to work on this. And we literally put them in another room for a while. Right, the first 4 weeks they were in another room, but we didn't leave them there too long, where the suspense and sort of desperation to be involved might last too long. We brought them back down pretty quickly, And I think that was managed well, and I think I also probably a credit to our culture of other folks recognizing like, hey, you're going to do this thing over here, I'm doing that. We got to play roles sometimes, and you know, when I say like we put our best people on, I mean like that was one or two people of the team, and then we were kind of adding. You know, it was a mixed team of experience levels and a bunch of other things. So it wasn't like we were just selectively trying to haul the best people off all projects to do the thing throughout. So it was good cross-functional team. Good.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex.